So if you've ever tried to learn a new language, or honestly even just a really dense technical subject, you know this exact feeling.
Oh, absolutely. The dreaded freeze.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting there maybe reading a book or listening to a lecture, and you understand everything perfectly. It all makes sense.
Your brain is just humming along, processing it all.
Yeah. But then, the exact second someone asks you a question and expects you to actually speak, your mind just goes completely, entirely blank.
It's like a vault just slams shut.
Yes. All the words you literally just understood 2 seconds ago are suddenly locked away. You're just staring at the person and nothing comes out.
And we actually see this in functional MRI scans. It's a real neurological traffic jam.
Wait, really? We can see it happening.
Oh, yeah. So comprehension, like when you're just listening, that's a passive process.
Uh-huh.
Wernicke's area in your brain is lighting up beautifully.
Like speaking.
That's active. The signal has to travel over to Broca's area, which handles speech production. And for a beginner, that pathway is basically a dirt road. It just gets completely overloaded.
That is so fascinating. And, well, that's exactly the cognitive traffic jam we're getting into for today's deep dive.
I'm really excited for this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
So we're looking at this really interesting set of source materials today. It chronicles a 30-day fluency challenge from an immersive program called Speak Up Sessions.
Right, and we're specifically tracking this teacher, Masu, and his adult student, Fizu.
Yeah, we're going to follow them over their first 10 days. And our mission today is to figure out how the brain actually builds that bridge from passive understanding to confident, active speaking.
Which is not an easy bridge to build.
No, not at all. And the biggest thing we're going to tackle, the absolute biggest trap that learners fall into, is what the sources call the complexity trap.
That urge to sound smart.
Exactly. It's this ego-driven desire where we try to construct these overly complex, incredibly long sentences right out of the gate.
Like trying to speak like a university professor on day one.
Right. Instead of just, embracing the power of keeping it radically simple.
Which is so hard for adults to do. I mean, we see this right away on day one with Fizu.
Yeah, he's super vulnerable right off the bat, isn't he?
He really is. He admits that he feels shy, he forgets basic words, and he just gets completely bogged down thinking about grammar.
And he ends up just freezing and not talking at all.
Exactly. And Masu, the teacher, spots the root cause immediately. Fizu is trying to translate everything in his head.
The translation loop. I want to really break this down because, it's not just a bad habit, right? It's basically a computationally impossible task for your brain.
Oh, it is massively demanding. It's a 6-step cognitive sequence that you're trying to jam into, like a 2-second window.
Okay, walk us through the steps. What is the brain actually trying to do?
Okay, so first, someone asks you a question in English. Step 1. You have to actually hear the sounds and decode the foreign words. Step 2. You pull those English words into your brain and translate them into your native language just to understand what was said.
Which already takes a second.
Exactly. Then step 3, and this is where the complexity trap really hits you, formulate your answer. Be formulated entirely in your native language.
So you're thinking up your response in the language you're comfortable in.
Yes. Step 4. You try to map that native language thought back into English vocabulary.
Oh boy.
Step 5. You run that newly translated English sentence through a conscious grammar check. Is it past tense? Did I get the subject-verb agreement right?
Like a mental spell check.
Right. And finally, step 6. You try to send the motor commands to your mouth to actually say it out loud.
That is just exhausting just listening to it.
It is. And human working memory is super limited. We can only hold about 7 distinct things in our mind at once.
So if you're juggling translating and grammar rules and finding vocabulary,
you're blowing way past that limit. The mental RAM is totally maxed out, the system crashes, and you freeze.
And in a normal conversation, you only have half a second to respond before it gets awkward.
Yeah, conversational turn-taking happens in about 200 to 500 milliseconds.
Wow.
But that 6-step translation loop, that takes several full seconds. By the time you reach step 5, the window to speak has already closed.
And then it gets quiet and you start panicking.
Exactly. The silence triggers the stress response. Your brain gets flooded with cortisol, and that actually makes it even harder to remember words.
It's a total downward spiral.
Yeah.
And this is where that specific problem, the complexity trap, just makes everything 10 times worse, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because think about it. Fizu is an intelligent adult.
Right. He's smart. He's articulate in his native language.
So in step 3, when he's formulating his answer in his native language, he's not thinking of a simple childlike sentence.
He's thinking with adult nuance. Sarcasm, layered thoughts, big words.
Exactly.
Mhm.
His brain naturally generates this intricate, long, winding thought. And then he tries to force that massive, complex structure through the tiny bottleneck of his beginner English vocabulary.
It's basically an ego thing, isn't it? Like, we don't want to sound like a 5-year-old.
It totally is. As adults, our identity is wrapped up in sounding competent.
I always think of it like it's like trying to juggle 5 flaming torches before you've even learned how to catch a single tennis ball.
That is the perfect analogy. You just drop everything.
You drop everything and you look worse than if you just toss the tennis ball. I mean, we see Fizu struggle with this when Masu just asks him simple questions,
Right. Masu asks, "How are you today?"
which should be the easiest question in the world.
It should be. But Fizu hesitates. He's probably sitting there trying to build this huge sentence about how he's feeling apprehensive about the challenge, but also optimistic and
And he ends up saying literally nothing.
exactly.
Hmm.
Masu has to step in and basically force him to abandon all that complexity. He just guides him to say, "I'm doing well, thanks for asking."
Which leads perfectly into Masu's whole counter strategy to this complexity trap, which he calls radical simplicity.
Radical simplicity, yes.
He flat out tells Fizu, look, you don't need to speak like a university professor,
He's explicitly giving him permission to sound basic.
which is such a relief, honestly. He says you don't need fancy words, just use simple, clear sentences.
Because the goal is fluency over perfection. Communication is the goal, not grammatical superiority.
Right, like the example from the sources where a learner wants to say something like, I am exceedingly delighted.
Yes. Your adult brain wants to use these highly specific, rare words. But Masu says, prune that thought. Strip it down.
Just say, I'm very happy.
Exactly. I'm very happy. Gets the exact same point across, and it doesn't crash your working memory.
Or like if you're talking about your weekend and you completely forget the word for relaxing.
The complexity trap tells you to stop talking, stare at the ceiling, and dig through your brain for 30 seconds to find that exact word.
While the other person is just standing there awkwardly waiting for you to finish your sentence.
Right. But Masu's rule is, do not stop, keep the momentum going. If you can't find relaxing in half a second, just say it was nice.
I had a nice weekend. Boom, done. You're still in the conversation.
Exactly. By using foundational words, your brain entirely bypasses that translation bottleneck.
Okay, so logically that makes total sense.
Okay.
Keep it simple. But I mean, how do you actually train your brain to do that in the moment? Because when the pressure is on, panic takes over.
Right. The philosophy isn't enough. You have to physically train your nervous system.
Which brings us to the physical training part of the curriculum, which I found so fascinating. They call it shadowing.
Shadowing is heavily featured in the sources.
Yeah. So on day 1, Fizu has to listen to 99 real English sentences and just repeat them out loud immediately, over and over.
This is the shift from intellectual learning to physical muscle memory.
Physical muscle memory.
Yeah.
It's so crucial. Because speaking isn't just knowing rules, is it?
Not at all. It's a highly complex motor skill. Your diaphragm, your vocal cords, your tongue, your lips, they all have to move in perfect, rapid coordination.
And your mouth has spent, what, 20, 30, 40 years getting wired to only make the sounds of your native language?
Exactly. Your resting tongue position, the way you breathe, it's all optimized for your mother tongue. When you try to speak English, you're demanding that your muscles do totally foreign gymnastics.
I love seeing Fizu's notes on day 3 and day 5 about this.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He actually says his mouth feels more comfortable, but it's also tired. Like he's been at the gym.
Because he basically has. His physical muscles are adapting to the new sounds and rhythms.
Okay, let me push back on this a little bit, though. Does just repeating pre-written phrases like a parrot actually lead to spontaneous creative speech? Like, if you just memorize sentences, how does that help when someone asks you an unpredictable question?
It's a great question. And the answer is cognitive scaffolding.
Cognitive scaffolding. Okay, explain that.
So, shadowing doesn't teach spontaneity itself. It automates the structure so that you have the brain power left over to be spontaneous.
Ah.
Think about ordering a drink. If your brain has to consciously think about where to put your tongue to say the letter L, and remember to say a glass instead of just glass,
Yeah.
and remember to add please at the end.
You're using 100% of your brain power just to make the sounds.
Exactly. You have no cognitive load left to actually listen to what the waiter is saying back to you.
Right.
But if you've shadowed the phrase, "I'd like a glass of water, please," 100 times,
Your mouth just knows how to say it instinctively.
exactly, your motor cortex handles the physical execution automatically. It frees up your working memory. Your conscious brain doesn't have to build that sentence from scratch anymore.
Oh, that makes so much sense. That's why the 99 sentences in the source aren't like Shakespeare.
No, they are high-frequency patterns.
Yeah, stuff like, I woke up early, I had breakfast, I checked my phone. Yep.
The basic scaffolding of daily life. Native speakers don't build sentences word by word either. We use these pre-compiled chunks of language all the time.
Right, if you ask me how I am, I don't think about pronoun, verb, adjective. I just hit play on the I'm good, how are you recording in my head.
Exactly. Shadowing forces the learner to adopt that native-like chunking strategy.
Okay, so shadowing fixes the physical bottleneck. But what about the internal monologue? Because if I'm still thinking in my native language in my head, I'm still going to get stuck translating, right?
Yes. And Masu tackles this head-on. He gives Fizu this vital tip. You have to start thinking directly in English.
Which sounds impossible. How do you just switch the language in your head?
You start incredibly small, at the microscopic level. Masu tells him, when you see a dog on the street, do not think of the word for dog in your native language. Just look at it and think, dog.
Okay, so you're building a direct bridge between the visual of the animal and the English word, completely skipping the native language translation.
Exactly. You're severing that translation tie.
And then he takes it a step further, which I think is kind of hilarious, but brilliant. He tells the learners to narrate their own lives out loud when they're alone.
Yes, self-narration.
Like literally walking around your kitchen talking to yourself.
It's a profound psychological tactic.
The examples in the text are so mundane, like making coffee. You literally say out loud to the empty room, I am making coffee. I am pouring the water. I am adding sugar.
Or, I'm cutting the vegetables while you cook.
Now, I have to say, it feels so silly to do this. You feel like a crazy person narrating your own dishwashing.
It does. But that empty room is the perfect environment for this. It's a completely safe sandbox.
Right, because there's zero fear of judgment.
Exactly. In a real conversation, the fear of sounding stupid triggers your amygdala, your brain's threat detection center.
And when you're stressed, you can't think.
Right. The stress literally suppresses the prefrontal cortex, which is where you retrieve vocabulary.
Wow.
You physically lose access to the language.
Oh, wow. So by talking to your coffee pot?
Your amygdala stays totally dormant. You can make mistakes, you can struggle to find a word, and there's no social penalty. It forces your brain to generate English without the pressure of an audience.
That's brilliant. But of course, you can't stay in your kitchen forever.
No, eventually you have to take it into the real world.
Which is exactly what Masu forces Fizu to do next. The curriculum moves from these isolated, safe sentences into actual contextual role-playing.
Real-life scenarios.
Yeah, like ordering food, shopping, asking for directions. And what really stood out to me here was how Masu teaches conversational agility.
It's not just about retrieving the right word, it's about the rhythm of human interaction.
Yes. Like he tells Fizu, it's not enough to just answer a question. You have to ask back to show interest.
Social reciprocity.
Right, like if a friend says, how are you?
Yeah.
You can't just say, I'm doing well, and stare at them. You have to add, how about you?
Otherwise, it feels like an interrogation, which just makes everyone more stressed.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the scenarios they practice are so practical. In the restaurant, Masu stops Fizu from saying, just me, when walking in.
Right. Just me is a literal translation of what he might say in his head.
But it's awkward in English. So Masu gives him the standard script. Table for one, please.
He's handing him the conversational formula.
Yeah, and in the shopping scenario, he gives him this unbreakable formula. I'm looking for.
I'm looking for a shirt. I'm looking for shoes. It works every time.
And my absolute favorite utilitarian phrase for shopping. Where is the fitting room?
It's a lifesaver.
It really is.
Yeah.
I kind of view these contextual phrases like having a literal toolkit. You know?
Oh, I like that.
Like if you're a carpenter, you don't need to invent a brand new, custom-designed hammer every single time you see a nail.
You just reach into your belt and grab the standard hammer.
Exactly. You just reach for the standard conversational tool. You don't need to invent a complex sentence to order a burger. You just use the I'll have the tool.
And that's what native speakers do. We run on these prefabricated scripts all day long.
Okay, but even with the scripts and the shadowing and the safe sandbox Fizu still messes up constantly.
Oh, constantly. The transition to practice is always chaotic.
Which brings us to the final hurdle we need to discuss. The grammar trap. And specifically, how Masu handles mistakes.
Fizu's struggles with the past tense are just relentless throughout the 10 days.
It's almost comical how much he fights it. He constantly says things like, I wake up instead of I woke up.
Or I drink instead of I drank.
Right. And, he intellectually understands the past tense rule, but in the heat of the moment, the rule just vanishes from his brain.
Because of the cognitive load we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Now, in a traditional classroom, a teacher would probably stop him, pull out a red pen, and correct him harshly every single time.
Which would just trigger the amygdala and cause another freeze.
But Masu's reaction is so different. He corrects him, but it's incredibly gentle.
Masu insists that mistakes are not the enemy. They are the teacher.
He actually tells Fizu that native speakers make grammatical mistakes all the time when they speak spontaneously.
Which is entirely true. The insistence on perfect, flawless grammar is exactly what causes the freeze in the first place.
To prove it, Masu shares this really funny, self-deprecating story about his own learning journey.
Oh, this is a great story.
He was trying to tell a group of people that he wasn't feeling stimulated, that he was feeling bored.
But he used the wrong ending.
Right. Instead of saying, I'm bored, he proudly announces to everyone, I'm boring.
Just completely inverting the meaning.
Exactly. Telling everyone he's a boring person.
Yeah.
And he talks about getting these strange, confused looks from people.
But the underlying lesson there is huge.
Yeah.
Even with that massive mistake, the communication didn't completely fail. People figured it out from the context. The world didn't end.
It totally levels the playing field between teacher and student. Like, look, I messed up embarrassingly too, and it's fine.
It changes the learner's relationship with failure.
Masu also gives this really specific tip for getting better at grammar without doing boring textbook drills. He notices Fizu is watching movies with native language subtitles.
Right, which is what everyone does.
But Masu tells him to switch the subtitles to English. Why does that work so well?
It's called dual coding. If you read in your native language while listening to English, your brain just reads your native language and tunes the English out as background noise.
You take the path of least resistance.
Exactly. But if you have English audio and English subtitles, your brain links the spoken sound directly to the written grammar rule in real time.
So you start automatically absorbing how the past tense looks and sounds together without actively studying it.
Yes, it rewires your implicit memory.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And, looking at Fizu's whole journey from day 1 to day 10, it's not like he suddenly has perfect grammar by the end.
No, he still drops the past tense sometimes. He still uses simple words.
But the transformation is incredible because his relationship with failure is completely changed.
On day 1, a forgotten word caused a total system shutdown.
He froze. But by day 10, if he forgets a word, he just substitutes it, maybe laughs at his own mistake, and keeps the conversation rolling.
He defeated the complexity trap.
He really did. So, to kind of synthesize all this for you listening, the secret to fluency isn't memorizing thousands of complex words.
It's definitely not trying to sound like a professor.
No. It is practicing simple, clear phrases every day. It's shadowing native rhythms so your mouth builds muscle memory.
It's narrating your life to yourself in your kitchen.
And it is enthusiastically, willingly making mistakes.
Because you have to build the foundation before you can build the mansion.
Exactly. And honestly, this applies to so much more than just language.
Oh, entirely.
Like if you are mastering a new coding framework or trying to understand complex financial markets, the trap is exactly the same.
Overcomplicating the basics before you've built the muscle memory.
Yes. If a developer tries to build a massive app before they really understand a simple loop, the whole thing crashes. You have to automate the baseline toolkit first.
You can't juggle the flaming torches until you can catch the tennis ball.
I'm telling you, it's the best analogy. So we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today as you go about your week.
Think about an area where you feel stuck or keep freezing up.
We usually think we're failing because we aren't smart enough or we haven't studied hard enough. But what if the biggest barrier to mastering that new skill isn't a lack of intelligence at all?
What if the knowledge is already in there?
Right. What if the only thing stopping you is your own ego's absolute refusal to sound simple and to just make a mess in the beginning?